Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Divine Parenting, Parenting Your Teen with Ease introduction. I am Jennifer, and I am bringing you this course so that you all can take the skills that I have in working with my clients who are teens and young adults, and I can put them in the hands of you, the parents and the caregivers, so that we together collectively can affect so many lives and change everybody's lives for the better and give everyone the tools that they need to be their best self. Some of you may already know that being your best self is my top priority in life for all of my clients, as well as myself and my family and my friends, my loved ones. We all have access to that best self. It's just, how do we find it? And sometimes we need a little bit of help. So here I am. I am here to help you specifically with your own teen, your own young adult, your own preteen, burgeoning into life and challenging everything you've been doing for the last 10 to 15 years. So before we jump right into the course, I want to introduce you to myself, and so you can learn a little bit about me and why it is that I do this. So I am 39 years old. I'm a mother of two beautiful daughters, Freya and Kaya, and I am a wife to one Stephen Butler, who is an amazing husband and has supported me so much. And we've had our struggles, like everything. So I started working with teens when I myself was a teen, 19 to be precise. I decided to jump from working in retail to working at a subacute psychiatric care facility, otherwise known as a group home, for severely emotionally disturbed teens and kids. At the time, I had no idea that this choice would impact the rest of my life so much. I learned during my time working within the system, which was for about 10 plus years, a little over 10 years, that I connect with teens in a way that not a lot of people do. I hear them, I see them, and I validate them in a way that gives them the power, allows them to see their full potential, and to teach them how to challenge their own thoughts and beliefs to break out of the status quo life that they were told they were going to live. This was especially important for this dynamic, this group of teens. Most of them came from underprivileged families. Most of them were people of color. They were told continuously by adults around them that they would amount to nothing. And it's a wonder why they struggled so much with their own behavior. A wonder why they didn't think that they could do any better. Why they continued to struggle in and day out with the same behaviors that we were all teaching them were bad, but we didn't explain to them what they could do instead. We didn't take the time to really listen to what they needed so that we could provide that thing that they needed. And most often, that was just someone to believe in them. So within this pattern, at the age of 23, so just a few short years later, I chose to start my journey to earn my PhD in clinical psychology. I hadn't even started college yet. I think I had taken one human development class and like the introduction to like the math class and the English class. And it was these children that taught me that my biggest impact in life could be helping kids just like them. And I thought that path was through my PhD. So I did that. I started planning all my classes, and I did this all while I was working 40 plus hours a week. And at one point I was working full time, which averaged around 48, 50 hours. And I was taking 12 units at a local, to me, community college, Sarah College in Nevada City in Rockland, to be specific. Great school. I was so dedicated to following this passion and this dream that I was willing to live a life that was uncomfortable. But it paid off. I completed my Associates of Science in Psychology with honors in 2012. I was 29 years old. It took me 7 years to get a 2-year degree. 7 years. I transferred to UC Davis to complete my BA in psychology with a minor in sociology, with every intent on continuing into graduate school. So in the spring of 2014, just 2 short years later, I received 5 rejection letters from the schools that I applied to. I didn't know what to do. I was devastated. And it turns out to have been the best thing that has ever happened to me. What I did next was I threw myself into just living. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what to do. So I got married, tried a bunch of different jobs. We decided to start a family. And that is when things really started to fall apart for me. I suffered with postpartum depression, which turned into major depression recurrent. I have extreme anxiety, and that was made worse by the pregnancy. Our rental home that we were living in was falling apart. The roof was leaking. We had rats. It was not a pretty situation. And then I got pregnant again. And our beautiful, wonderful family came together and supported us to move out of our house. We didn't have the financial security at the time to get a new rental or even close to buying a house. I live in California. That's hard to do. So in 2018, we found ourselves living in a 30-foot fifth wheel with our toddler, our 70-pound dog, our 2 cats, and my ever-growing pregnant belly. That was in February of 2018. And it was April, about 4 years from like right now. It was April 2018 when the sun had started to finally come out and the grass was all green, and I lived in a trailer, so we were outside, and I was outside with my toddler, who was about 16 months old at the time. And it's beautiful. And all I can think is, what the fuck happened? How did I end up here? How did I end up with a toddler, pregnant, living in a trailer on family property? How did this happen? I was going to be a doctor. How could this happen? And right then and there, I had a choice. I could crumble under the pressure of everything that I had experienced, or I could do something about it. And I chose action. I stood there in the field watching my child play, thinking about, what is it that gives me purpose? What do I love doing more than anything else? And it was teens. I loved working with teens. I wanted to do that again. And I knew that 2 things. I knew I didn't want to go back to working within the juvenile justice system. I knew that. I also knew that I didn't really want to dedicate 3+ years to getting my master's degree, to dedicate to another year of internship and then building a business and doing something that I didn't even know if I wanted to do at a massive investment to myself and my family at a time when we were living in a trailer. So I stood there waiting for something, and I had a divine intervention. A little birdie, metaphorical thought birdie, flew down and plopped into my head, life coach. And I thought, is that a thing? Can I do that? Can I be a teen life coach? And that is what started all of this. Jumped on Google, I found a program. A couple months later, I signed up for the program. A couple months after that, a year from when I first had that thought, I started my program, learning how to coach with teens. It took me 6 months to complete it, and then I started working, which was really slow. But during that time, something else came up in me. I wanted to make an impact, a big impact. And I knew that I am not so special that what I know can't be known by other people. So for the last 2 years, I've been putting this course together. I've compiled all the information that I've learned and gathered over the last 20 plus years and put it into an easy to learn format that highlights the areas where I know a lot of people are having a lot of struggles with. Then I took all that information, and I painted a picture of what it would look like to not have those struggles anymore. And thus, Divine Parenting was born. So because I like to start with the hard stuff, I'm going to share this with you. This is what I like to call the struggle bus parenting. There are 3 key points to struggle bus parenting. They are micromanaging, confusion and anger, and outdated parenting. All of these areas are things that we have learned how to do in our own life through being parented by parents who also learned how to do these things in life from their parents and their parents and their parents. Generational learning. I won't even say trauma. It's not quite that traumatizing, but this is generational learning that we have that we know we can do better on. That's where we're at collectively in the universe right now. And that's what this course is going to bring you. Okay? So confusion and anger are not just for you, but also for your teen. There's a lot of blaming, fear, and worry. And I'm sure I don't even need to explain what those things are. And I want to just point out that your teen also is doing blame, fear, and worry. Most of their blame, however, is going internal. And their fear is of disappointing you, disappointing their friends, disappointing themselves, worrying about whether or not what they're doing is enough. Parents, caregivers, are doing a lot of things. We're blaming ourselves, we're blaming our partners, we're blaming the schools, we're blaming social injustice, we're blaming screens, we're blaming a lot. Blame doesn't really get us anywhere. It doesn't make any change, right? It's very stagnant, it's very muddy. Fear and worry are, they tell us things, but they don't change things. They don't initiate change in the way that would help us alleviate the fear or the worry. They're ineffectual. Outdated parenting. This is a big one. And it might be the stickiest place for a lot of people. And that's okay. It was sticky for me too. These are things that I'm still continuing to learn because I have my own children now and I'm not taking care of other people's kids. Other people's kids, totally different game. Our own kids challenge all of our own beliefs and thoughts about what parenting should be, right? Those things, yelling, shame, guilt, being closed off. Those are all things that we learned by watching other people, and we think that's what we're supposed to do. And again, these are all things that give us information, but they are not what affect change and growth and progress for us or for our children. Micromanaging. If you've ever worked in a company, I'm sure you've experienced what micromanaging looks like. And it looks a lot like having a fixed mindset, which means you can't get any better, you can't grow, nothing matters, it doesn't matter how many times you try, it's just this is the way it is, this is how I'm wired. Restrictive, right? Everything is being restricted. And rescuing. This is something I ask a lot of parents when I start to work with their families. When do you let them fail? This is a question I ask. And many people don't. They want to rescue them, protect them from feeling the feeling of failure. Protect them from feeling heartbroken. Protect them and rescue them from feeling things like shame, fear, worry. All things that we experience in our day-to-day lives, that which do not kill us. When we rescue our teens, our young adults, our tweens, and even our young children, we do not teach them how to walk on their own 2 feet. Imagine if the first time your child fell when learning how to walk, you never let them walk again because you were too afraid of them getting hurt. That would be a detrimental thing to do. That would put them behind. It would cause a lot of fear in them. Well, if my parent doesn't think I can walk, why do I think I can? If they don't think I can get to school on time, why do I think I can? If they don't think I'm good enough to get A's, why do I think I am? Who am I to think that? So micromanaging our kids is not helping them. Feels like we are trying to control them, but what it is doing is actually immobilizing them. Okay? So this is struggle bus parenting. This is not happy, healthy growth. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so now what we do is we flip it on its head. And now we have divine parenting. And here we have moods and minefields, which includes cognition, hormones, thinking. Cognition is the actual processes in which our brains are working. What things are clicking, what things are connecting, what are the processes. This is the process of forming memories, right? These things that are really important to do well in school and to remember what time you have to be home and why that's important. That's cognition, right? Hormones, we kind of know what they are, right? We'll dive more deeply into that within the course, right? But there are specific hormones that trigger specific events in adolescence that initiate the growth that we all need to go through in order to get to adulthood. We'll talk about those. And thinking. Thinking is its own thing, separate from cognition. Thinking is a pattern of thought that we have, and oftentimes we can catch ourselves in this own process. And this is a good thing to try and do as you're thinking about this and as you're going along when you join the course. What is the thought that comes up if you hit snooze on your alarm more than once and now you're rushing? Is it, oh man, that wasn't a very good choice? Or is it, that was really stupid, Jen, why did you do that? Now you're late, right? That's a thinking pattern. The thinking pattern is, I am bad, I did a bad thing, or I am bad, or I did a bad thing. If I did a bad thing, I can change that. But if I'm bad, how can I change me? How can I change my badness? That's just who I am, right? Okay. When you understand the moods and the minefields, the cognition, the hormones, the thinking, it's easier to understand what your child is going through, what your teen is experiencing through their own lens set of the world. And from that vantage point, you can help them understand what's going on inside of them as well. This is a big thing that we'll go through in that section of the course. All right, the next one, my favorite. Your parent is not their parent. What have we got there? We have compassion, empathy, vulnerability. Compassion, empathy, and vulnerability. What powerful things. And not a lot of us know how to do them. And that's a shame. We should know how to do them. So part of this course is also going to be about you healing yourself. It is going to be about healing your own thinking patterns so that you can embody compassion, empathy, and vulnerability, not only for your child, but also for yourself. And as we know, the most important teacher in the world is done by showing. It's not done by doing, or not. It's not done by saying. The old saying, do as I say, not as I do. There's value in that saying. So in this course, we will be challenging these ideas that you have to use yelling and shame and being closed off in order to have a close relationship with your child. In reality, it's compassion, empathy, vulnerability. And at the end of this, we'll talk a little bit about vulnerability because it's such a powerful one. I believe fully in it. And lastly, the third pillar of divine parenting is be the CEO of your teen. Again, we went from micromanaging, fixed mindset, restrictive, saving, rescuing, to being the CEO of your teen, instilling that growth mindset, giving them the power of autonomy, and modeling appropriate boundaries. Part of that boundaries and the autonomy is going to come from a true understanding of what's going on with their cognition and their thinking and their hormones, all of those things. This is a time period that we are genetically predispositioned to take risks. It's just part of the whole process. Is we take more risks during this time period in our life so that we can learn what has positive and negative outcomes. It's not to do everything perfectly and never get in trouble or never fail or never falter, never stumble. It's to do those things during a time period when we still have a built-in support system. It's better to learn about money when you don't have to pay your own rent, right? It's better to learn about safety of our body and others when we're not having to always provide for the safety of ourselves. It becomes less risky because they have a support system, because they have you. So when we talk about boundaries and autonomy and couple it with risk taking, it's teaching them how to take risks intelligently, how to mitigate the really, really bad stuff from happening so that they can still enjoy what it feels like to be free. And as scary as that sounds to parents, it's really, really important to be able to allow them the freedom to explore who they are so that they know who to be when they are older, when they are fully responsible, so that they can learn how to be their best self. And with these tools, what you're seeing here within divine parenting are what you can give them to be the best version of themselves. It is not rocket science. It is quite simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Okay? So let's talk about vulnerability. And we're going to stop this. Before I even talk about my own vulnerability and where I've modeled that for you right now, I just want to give you a definition. And this definition comes from Brene Brown. If you don't know her, go Google her. She's amazing. She has quite a few books, audiobooks, and right now out on HBO, she has a special that is specifically related to the book that I'm going to read from right now, which is called Atlas of the Heart. Okay, so vulnerability is the emotion that we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And I was thinking about this earlier, and I can imagine where some might have me read that, right? It's an emotion that we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Can also feel like shame. And the difference between shame and vulnerability is very simple. Shame is what lives inside of us. Vulnerability is what we share. So take, for instance, my story that I shared with you not that long ago about me living in a trailer. I can have shame about that. And for a while I did. I can have shame that I wasn't able to provide for my family. I can have shame that I wasn't living up to my own expectations of where I should be in life. But it only remains shame when I keep that to myself, when I don't share that idea or share my experience outwardly. So it becomes vulnerability when I bring it out to you and I share it with you. And I don't know what you're going to think about me. And at the same time, because I am secure in who I am, I know that your opinion about me and where I was living doesn't affect my worth, right? So I'm experiencing some, I don't know how you're going to take this, but at the same time, it's not ripping me apart because I know that even if it's just 1% of you watching, you're going to hear that and be like, oh, I get that. Me too. And that's what I'm sharing it for. That 1%. It's going to be more, but that 1%. Vulnerability can feel really, really scary because, again, you don't control how the other person is going to respond to it. And when we try to control, aka micromanage, we limit the people around us. We limit their ability to support us. We limit their ability to love us and have compassion and empathy for us and to share their own vulnerability. So when we step out of living and teaching with shame and yelling and being closed off, then we open up to this possibility of being compassionate, empathetic, and vulnerable. In the wise words of Brené Brown, vulnerability is not weakness. It is our greatest measure of courage. Greatest measure of courage. So whatever brought you here today, watching this video, took courage. You had to think to yourself, maybe I need help doing this. Maybe. Lean into that courage, lean into that vulnerability. That's my challenge to you. We can do it together. We can go from struggle bus parenting, micromanaging, confusion, anger, outdated parenting, to divine parenting, understanding the moods and mind fields, parenting differently than your parent parented you, and learning how to be the CEO of your teen. All of these things together will help you create the strongest bond you possibly can with your teen. And you can know deep down that they are going to be able to live their best life because you've given them all the tools. If you have any questions about any of this, please, please, please reach out, send me an email, let's talk. If you're ready to jump on, sign up, join the party, get off the bus. See you next time.